Okay, looks like we're live here on YouTube. This is, what day is it, Andy? It's Friday, June 4th. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So, Friday, June 4th, 2021. We're talking about superheroes today. And you'll notice in the thumbnail, I got that on Pixabay.
It's a kid. It's a
Yeah.
kid and there's a Batman shadow on it.
Yes.
It's Bruce Wayne.
Yes. Okay, so you think it's Bruce Wayne? You think that's the interpretation? It's a young Bruce Wayne, yeah? And he's going to end up becoming Batman?
Yes.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, and he's a little banged up too, right? Maybe that's after he fell in the cave. You think so? Yeah, that's it. But I didn't think about that interpretation. I just thought, yeah, maybe. I just thought it was just a kid that had been bullied or something like that. But no, I think you're right. I think it makes sense to be a young Bruce Wayne. So, in the back corner over here, you'll see I've got a few things going on. I've got the Red Sun Superman, right, Indy? Where's Red Sun Superman from? You know what country he's from? Starts with an R. Ooh. Russia. He's from Russia. It's like a what if Superman landed in Stalin's Russia. Yeah, like what would happen? It's actually an animated film also that's really good, based on a comic book series by, who's it by? I want to say it's not Mark Millar. It is who is it? It might come. Maybe it is Mark Millar. Yeah, I think so. He's written a few interesting comic books, or comic book arcs and series also. So he's Scottish, I believe. So you'll also see the Superman, what looks like Superman and Doomsday. That's actually Superman and Earth One Batman, also known as Devastator. So those are some things that Andy and I have we've collected to and maybe get rid of those things, right? Maybe sell them. We've got a few extras and things like that. So, or maybe we'll do like a membership site and give them away, huh? Every time we get like 100 members or something. That'd be kind of cool, huh? Like do a raffle or something like that. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, we've got dozens and dozens of things like that here. And so, so we're working on superheroes and updates. Well, for updates, we're trying to get, I think I'm going to do something more with this background. It's just kind of pale, but hopefully the camera is working better. And I still don't know to look at the camera. I'm always looking down at my microphone when I talk, so I'll get better at that. But hopefully this camera is a little bit better as far as the lighting and imagery. If not, I can always adjust it, but I think the quality is much, much better than it was. And so we've got a few things going on. We're going to be doing the background. I'm thinking of actually putting up a few bookshelves, and then the collection that Indy and I have, right, Indy, of the McFarlane multiverse, right, the DC multiverse toys of McFarlane. You want to go grab one for me real quick? I think your Superman is over there, right? And so, no, your Superman Unchained? All right. Anyway, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to put some bookshelves up in the back here, and we're going to have different scenes so everybody can see the cool characters and things like that. So I think that'd be kind of interesting. And so, and the theme today is updates and superheroes. And so let's see. Oh, I know the new. So if anyone, I'm not a big fan of the CW. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of the shows there are pretty poorly written. And the plots, I mean, the plots are fairly decent, but I think the shows are very poorly written for the most part. I don't think they get characters right for the most part. I think there's way too much sex and violence involved. Oh, here we go. And yes, my kid can hear me, but she hears regular TV also. Thank you, Indy. All right, here's some of the McFarlane characters. Anyway, so there's like a Batman from a different, like from the multiverse, right? He's got axes because he deals with actual like zombies, right? In his, yeah. But just to show you guys, so this is what Indy's been doing with her spare time. Check out the capes. I mean, McFarlane, for any of you that don't know, Todd McFarlane was he's an excellent artist. He created Spawn, but he also worked on Spider-Man and was the co-creator of Venom. So you can tell the type of art that he does is pretty fantastic. And so his toys are pretty amazing. If you look at like the articulation level, right? I mean, like they have the toe bend, which a lot of people are like, why bother? Well, that's because you can do like really cool effects with these things, right? And they can stand up. And for the most part, it's a pretty good price. But I mean, you can do things like this with them, and do like fight scenes. This Superman in particular comes from a series when they were trying to rescue Damian Wayne, the son of Batman. And they had to put on particular armor, right? So Superman looks kind of like a Gundam fighter, right? In Japanese animation, yeah. And he does have like these wings and stuff on him that are pretty cool. Batman's got what they call Indy calls it the Heck Bat. It's the Hellbat costume, right? And it's solid black. It's like armor because they're going up against Darkseid.
Yes.
So yeah, it's pretty cool too, right? Yeah. It's a pretty cool series. So anyway, we've got some of that stuff going on. We're having a lot of fun with it, and she gets to do some different things. And she and Audrey both like art. Audrey is more into like the kind of the manga style, but she likes like the Sailor Moon type and things like that. And Indy is more like into the superheroes still. So, but we are thinking of putting like those characters on display in like battle scenes, right, in the background on a bookshelf. So, I think that'd be kind of cool. But anyway, getting back to the shows on like the CW. So, I'm not a fan of most of those. The Flash is pretty good. I mean, even then, the writing can really lag. I did not like some of the entire seasons of those or Arrow. And as a huge comic book fan going way back, I mean, I literally learned how to read using the King James and comic books. No kidding. That's how I learned to read. So between those two, it was like Fantastic Four, right? And the Amazing Spider-Man, and then also the King James and Revelation. By the time I was 5, I went through that book. And that's why I had the recurring nightmares of Satan showing up at my grandmother's back door, knocking on the back door to claim my soul. Revelation is probably not the best, especially when you're like a 5-year-old and you watch like The Omen, the one from like 76 or whatever, right? The one with Gregory Peck, the old school original. Yes, you want to say hi real quick? You can pop in and say hi. Say hi. There's her bear. There's a Blackberry. Is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah, she got him from the Blackberry Diner. Okay, so anyway, so the CW, the new series though, Superman and Lois, is actually pretty good. I gotta say, it's really enjoyable. I don't want to give away a lot of spoilers, but even the way they parent their teenage kids, I guess that's a spoiler. But anyway, even the way they do that is actually pretty good. I mean, Clark Superman, he comes across as kind of soft to me, to be honest with you. Like he's trying to be some perfect dad with, and I get it, because there are times like I'll say something that's gruff and then I feel super bad and guilty, and you've got kids, and so you try to make it right. But in this one, it actually is pretty good, and it avoids a lot. I've noticed the same with the Flash. It avoids a lot of the more adult themes, which I really like. I mean, to me, I think comics for the most part are for kids. They do have adult-oriented comics, but I think we get too obsessed over deconstruction, right? I think Frank Miller did some great stuff with Daredevil Reborn. I think he did some awesome stuff with The Dark Knight Returns. But even Frank Miller himself would kind of say, he's also the guy that created like Sin City and 300, in case anybody's wondering. Zack Snyder like directed 300, but Frank Miller actually did the comic books. He created that series. He and his wife at the time, Lynn Varley. So if you like things like that, I mean, that's Frank Miller. But even Frank Miller himself is like, hey, this wasn't meant to change the entire genre. It's sort of like Watchmen, right? It's a deconstruction of the superhero. Well, you can only do so much. I mean, they're heroes for a reason, right? And this is why I kind of hate Zack Snyder's Justice League. I like the way they did it as an alternate universe, like what DC would call Elseworlds, right? Where it doesn't take place on the primary world. That's not the Clark Kent Superman that everybody grew up with. That's a separate one, right? Because Superman doesn't kill. We know that. Batman doesn't kill. The original Batman, 1939, yeah, he did. He carried a gun. He had these purple gloves on, right? And he'd go around and he'd beat the hell out of and sometimes kill criminals. But Batman as a whole turned into this hero where he's always wanting to give somebody a chance, right? Into redemption. Harvey Dent being a classic example of that. No matter how much Harvey Dent does something, Batman is always trying to kind of rehabilitate him. And that's what he's about, right? Is second chances. So Batman's about nobody else suffering, but also about giving people chances. That's why he takes them to Arkham Asylum, to get them mental health, as opposed to, even though he beats the holy hell out of them, he also tries to get them help, right, Indy? And Indy's over here laughing because anytime I say a word like that, it just makes my kids laugh. And I will be honest, sometimes I say words like that just to get a laugh out of them if like it's too serious or something. We're really bad dad, right? So anyway, that's what Batman and Superman are about. So the Justice League, yeah, it's a really great, I don't even want to call it noir just because they did it in black and white, the new version. But the Snyder Justice League is pretty good. I think it stands on its own, but I don't think it really speaks to the core of the characters, except for maybe Darkseid. Wonder Woman, her portrayal is pretty close. Cyborg, I don't know. I'm always like a Teen Titans fan with him, so he's kind of out of place there. I'd prefer like Jon Jones, like the Martian Manhunter, right in there, and also the Green Lantern. Hal Jordan's great, and I know that he's like the go-to. But Jon Stewart, man, he's an awesome Green Lantern. I would love to see a live action with him. So anyway, getting back to the CW, it avoids a lot of like the Flash, for instance, and even Superman and Lois. They kind of avoid that, which I really like. I really don't want to get into superheroes intimate life. I don't want to deal with their romantic life for the most part, other than like say Peter Parker's, where he was always struggling. Right. This is the one thing when Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created Spider-Man, is Peter Parker was the everyman. Right. He was like us. He struggled with stuff. I mean, he struggled with relationships. He was a superhero, but people kind of hated him in the public eye. You'd have people that really talked him up, like Flash Thompson in the comics was like his nemesis, right, at school. But he was a great, huge fan of Spider-Man. But he hated Peter Parker. He thought he was a wimp. And so you have kind of these views and like Carl Jung would say, right, like the archetypes and things like that of these heroes. So where the CW, I think, gets it right with Superman and Lois, where I think it really gets it right, is one, I actually like the costume in this, and it's pretty good. And Lois Lane is not portrayed as like a Mary Sue, where, in other words, where she has no training, no nothing, and she just happens to just be excellent at everything. No, she gets into trouble. However, she's also wise enough and experienced enough to know how to get herself out of it. And Bitsy Tulloch, who you may recognize also from the series Grimm, she does a really wonderful job of playing a Lois Lane, like a strong a female that's not constantly like, you don't have sort of like like Superman isn't like this henpecked male character, right? He's not like a beaten down, by his wife. He's not a wimp. At the same time, he's not a bully that determines all of their relationship. And he may be Superman, the most powerful being on Earth, but she holds her own, and so it's really great. And also, you don't see a lot of things. I mean, there is some like teenage drinking for those of you Christians out there that watch the show. There is a little bit of that, but that typically doesn't end well for the characters involved. It gets them into trouble, and of course, Superman and Lois would never be for that type of thing. I mean, he's from like Smallville, right? He's raised on a farm in Kansas. So I'm sure even though he would do things like that growing up, it's more like, hey, you've got a responsibility here. And in fact, that quote, I will give you a spoiler alert right here. That quote is used: with great power comes great responsibility, right? I think they actually say it in there. But it's a really good series. And also what I really like is the power levels of Superman in this series are really done really well. I mean, he's not like the CW kind of with like Legends of Tomorrow when they did the crossover, it was okay, but their power level was way, way down compared to what it is in here. I mean, Superman in here is just phenomenal, and I won't tell you more about the family and the kids, but it's really, I think, a great series so far. And I hope they continue along this line. It's not overly preachy. It's not overtly sexual or anything like that. They don't have a lot of bad language as far as I know. And it's just a pretty good series about family and about what's going on in Smallville. There's a mystery there, right? Even the villain is sort of like, it's not, so far it's not really Lex Luthor is not the main villain in here, which is nice. It's nice to get away from that. Indy, you want to say hi again? You can pop in. Come on, you come over here and say hi. So that's a series that so far I'd recommend. Stargirl was similar. Even though they do have some more adult themes in Stargirl, I think Superman and Lois is probably the best of the CW series that I've seen in a long time. I never got into some of them just because they didn't really appeal to me. So I don't even know the content on some of these shows. I think like Batwoman is one. Supergirl, I kind of watched at the beginning, but really lost interest. I don't think they did the characters well at all. And then it got focused into other themes like romantic involvements and entanglements that I'm really not interested in. And that became almost like a foundation of the show, which I guess, I mean, it appeals to some people, not to me. I'm not a fan of it. Black Lightning, haven't seen that in a few years, but what I did see, I really enjoyed it. And I think the actor that plays Black Lightning, I mean, this guy is he's a tall and big dude. So his presence is pretty commanding when he's on screen. And I like him both in and out of costume. And the same with the characters. He's got two daughters. I don't want to spoil all that, but pretty good series. The Flash, I think, is a decent series, but I think it really lags in the writing. Unless they've got like a good Speed Force-based character, it hasn't really done well. I wish they'd do more of Gorilla Grodd and King Shark, and I know that costs a lot more to do. But I do think that would really help the series out. I still think that the Reverse Flash, right, Eobard Thawne, he's like the best villain for that series. And I really like the guy that plays, I can't remember his name. The guy that played Ed, but he also plays Harry Wells, right? Or Harrison Wells in the series. He's the best actor. Him and then Joe West, right? The guy from, again, these names are slipping by me, but he was also in like Law and Order, right? The big guy. And he plays Iris West's dad. I think those two are kind of the heart and the soul of that series. And they're the best out of that series. Not to take anything away from the folks that play the Flash or Iris or anybody else, but, like Cisco, Caitlin Frost. I mean, they're wonderful characters, but I think that Harrison Wells and Joe West are the best written, and they're the heart and soul of that show. So those are some good things. I'm a little sore today. Sorry, a little bit out of it. It's been last couple of days. I haven't really felt well. I feel like someone beat 9 kinds of hell out of me. In case anyone doesn't know us, yeah, Indy's laughing again. That's like a Dante reference, right? Like the 9 circles of hell.
Who's Dante?
Dante was a writer.
Oh.
A writer back from a long, long time ago, and he wrote about how certain people would suffer in certain levels of hell, right? Especially people that wronged him. Does that sound familiar? Like people that upset him were the ones that he thought would have it worse, right? I think traitors were the lowest form. I don't know, like the lowest form of life on earth. We used to call them lops, right, back in the day. And so anyway, not traitors, but the traitors are something else. We like backstabbers or whatever. And I always say, right, better to take an axe in the chest than a knife in the back. A dagger in the dark and right, and an adder in your sleep, right, like a snake bite or something. Yeah, traitors are the worst, huh?
Yeah, traitors like it's like if you have a friend but they betray you.
Yes, and that's not a good feeling, right? Because it affects your trust and your ability to deal with other people. Yeah, Indy, we talk about these themes sometimes. And so she really knows about superheroes and things like that. That's one of her favorite things, especially Batman. And you'll see a lot of, when I would turn in her packets of art, right? There'd be a lot of drawings on there. She would draw like characters and what they're doing. And it's really funny. It's very expressive. So you knew what the character intended by their face or by their gestures or how they were very, very animated, right? So again, I recommend like the Superman series. I'm trying to get Maria to do kind of a podcast with me, my wife, right? Because she has interesting takes on some of these shows and stuff like that and critiques. And we're like, nah, this sucks, but then we go further into it. Like, okay, here's why, like, this is like lazy writing, or like, this isn't like the character, right? Like we know, like the fans, do the fans some justice. And it's not that we're always these purists that, you have to do it a certain way. I mean, obviously the Superman and Lois series is not really to a purist level or standpoint, right? But just the same with like Lord of the Rings or with like Star Wars, you got to keep it right. That last Star Wars where basically you're wiping out the entire Skywalker family and taking over their identity isn't cool. So I don't see how some of the people see this and it's like, oh, this is going to play well. And then when the fans get upset, they're like, screw you, we don't care about you. And how dare you? And you're nothing but this and that. And it's like, they're the reasons why it was popular in the first place. So you don't burn those bridges, right? Unless you're like Dad, right, Indy? Let the bridges I burn light the way. Anyway, so I think that'll be it for right now. So just talking a little bit about superheroes. And I like Indy's her interpretation of that picture in there. And like I said, we're going to do something with the background, right, Indy? We should put up those shelves, huh, and then put the characters.
What picture?
The little boy with the Batman shadow in the back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think he had a Star Wars toy, too, in there. We got to check it out and see. So anyway, hopefully the sound and the video are a lot better on this one. And again, we're just we're sharing about new superhero stuff, right? And we might do a podcast similar to this where, like I said, I'm a comic fan from way back. I mean, like over 40 years of reading and collecting comics and comic-related things. And I do love things like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, and not so much into like Doctor Who. My wife likes that stuff. I'm not into things that are British. I don't know why. Now, my grandfather, DeLoss, he's the one that passed recently, back in January. But his background is British. I mean, he comes from the Benedicts and the Huntingtons, right? They're like blue bloods. We traced like 11 genetic ancestors to the Mayflower that I'm like related to, right? That literally came over on the Mayflower, like the Brewsters and things like that. But and a lot of presidents too, interestingly enough, right? And you got to have those corrupt ones in there. So it's quite interesting. But Maria loves things like Doctor Who. I mean, we don't have like posters everywhere, although we do have a thing on the little sign up there, right?
It's a painting.
It's sort of a painting. It's on like the wood plaque. It's a cover of a Doctor Who comic book. Yeah, It's got the TARDIS on there, right? The blue police call box. So, but Maria tends to like that stuff. Like she likes the Jane Austen sensibility. Although she did get me hooked on what was that series with the British family? And I'm actually not being fake right now. Downton Abbey. But see, I get involved. And I have this phrase, and I tell people, my family, my friends, don't involve me unless you want me involved, right? That's like if your problems, I get it, people go through tough times, but if you bring me in, I'm more solution-oriented. Okay, here, how can we change this? How can we fix it? What can we do to adapt and to overcome these things, right? That's just me. I'm not the person like you need a sounding board. I just want to vent. That's not me. I'll listen once or twice, and I'm like, right now you're just wallowing and you're just digging, a grave with no end to it. And so I have my deep flaws, and that's one of them. I'm not always a good listener. But so when I get involved in things, and I was watching like Downton Abbey, I'm the type where Maria has to have things on demand and pause it, because I will sit there in the middle of something and be like, and I'll start analyzing, right, and get into the philosophy of these characters. Like, why would they do that? Why are they written this way? This doesn't make sense from this standpoint, or historically this doesn't fit in. It's an anachronism. And so I used to do that to Maria, and she'd be like, it's like Project Runway, and I'm over analyzing all of these things and going into these different issues, and why would this happen? Why would they even film that? Like, if this is like the best of everything, just certain things that just pop up into my head. And she's like, I'm just trying to finish the show. And I'm sorry, I take a drink of my coffee. That's just in my nature. So I tell her, I'm always like, hey, you might want to hit pause. That's like what I say to her. Okay, let's pause it real quick. All right, Maria, you might want to hit pause. Okay, you might want to stop it for a sec. And so my poor, extremely patient wife, she's got to deal with that. Even my kids, I'll go in and I'll disrupt them. They're doing something. And I'm like, hey, check this out. And then we'll start talking about something. And Audrey would be like, I really don't want to get into this conversation. It's like, well, we're doing it.
And in my mind, I would be like, fact, yes.
Yeah. Be like, what?
Fact, yes.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I think she said crack.
I didn't mean to.
Anyway, so it's been fun. But I've also been around kids for the last, year and 3 months, like 24/7. So it's had its challenges, it's had its blessings and everything like that. But it's fun to see how they're growing and developing. But like I said, we're getting into the comics, we're getting into different pop culture, and so getting back to it. So I'd love to have it. So Andy and I are going to be talking about some things, and then, but with Maria and I would love it if we can get into some podcasts like that. Like, here, let's watch this show and let's figure it out. Let's critique it. Like, what's the good, what's the bad, what's the indifferent, the ugly, what never should have been. And then why? So I think it would be kind of cool, right? I don't know if anyone remembers that show, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Goes way back. They did some things like that where like Servo and Crow T, Robot, and those guys, they're sitting there watching these horrible shows and they're making fun of it and critiquing it. So, and then we'll get to like the Holy Grails and we'll watch things like Indiana Jones maybe, or like the Goonies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the Goonies is fun too, and things like that. So, we'll see. So I guess that's it for now. Just talking about more pop culture references, and I don't always talk theology. Sometimes I pretty much have an opinion on everything, but I'll back it up. It'll be backed up with, okay, this is the character of Spider-Man. What did they get right about it? If you want to watch a great Spider-Man film, Spider-Man 2, the one with Tobey Maguire, right, with Doc Ock, that is probably one of the best portrayals of a villain ever. And most comic fans will tell you the same thing. And we're not like a monolith culture, right? But at the same time, a lot of comic fans, we know what we like. Hugh Jackman was great as Wolverine, but a lot of us are like, hey, he's too tall. He's supposed to be a foot shorter. But still, his portrayal of the character, wonderful, just awesome. And, some of the new characters like Tony Stark, with Robert Downey Jr., really great portrayal. I hope they don't bring him back, because of the way they sent him off. I think they'll bring him back like in a multiverse form. But I know, again, I usually talk theology. I usually talk a lot of history, maybe some philosophy, but I'm also a comic geek at heart. So anything comic related or even pop culture, even tangentially related to any type of comic book character, anything like that, I love it. So, and I've seen all the old films, the old Doctor Strange from the 70s, right? The old Captain America from the 80s, the Spider-Man with Nicholas Hammond, right, in the 70s, where he would, shoot the web, but it's actually like a net that someone off screen would throw on somebody, right? The old cartoon, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, the old Super Friends, when like their mouths would move, but like maybe their bodies wouldn't, Casey Kasem doing Robin, and you've got Batman and Robin guest starring on Scooby-Doo, all of that stuff, So maybe we'll have a channel or a show just dedicated to that type of thing, go all the way back, right? The Hanna-Barbera cartoons, going back to the Fleischer Superman cartoons, the Spider-Man cartoons from the 60s, right? With the watercolor painted backgrounds, all of that stuff. And, of course, Batman, the animated series, right? That was the bomb during the 90s. I mean, I still think that is they made Superman in a similar style, but just lighter, like a lighter palette. I didn't like it as much. But I got to go back and rewatch that series too. Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, awesome. There's some good stuff out there, right? DuckTales. I mean, come on, the original, yeah. The new one's good, but the original just, I don't know, has a good place there. Same with TMNT, right? The Ninja Turtles, the old Transformers series.
DuckTales better.
You like the new DuckTales better? Yeah, it's got really cool animation, right?
Mhm.
And the guy that does the guy that did Doctor Who, or one of the Doctor Who's, is also Uncle Scrooge, right? He does the voice of Uncle Scrooge, David Tennant, who was also the Purple Man, right? In Jessica Jones, which is another great series, but it was a very dark series. Hey, we'll get into that too, right? The Netflix series. Luke Cage had the best music. Season one had the best music, right? Best soundtrack. You got Daredevil, you've got The Punisher, you've got Iron Fist, which is like my least favorite.
Iron Fist?
Yeah, the Iron Fist wasn't as good. The guy should have been just like this kung fu master, right?
I think Iron Fist is like Tony Stark's odd Iron Man suit.
No, Iron Fist is a separate character. He does martial arts.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the one with the yellow mask, and he has the green shirt on it. He has the dragon on his chest.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll show you later. So, but yeah, Tony Stark. Yeah, that makes sense. Iron Man, Iron Fist, but Iron Fist was he was a martial artist. Yeah, and he could make his fist. He could summon his chi, like his spiritual energy, right, and channel it into his fist and make it hard like iron and punch through stuff. That was his power. Yeah, he hung out with Luke Cage a lot. Luke Cage is another character, pretty cool, right? And so I don't know how it's going on the microphone when I turn away like that. Hopefully it sounds decent, but we'll figure that out too. Got another mic that has like a 360. It can pick things up all the way around it, but then it'll also pick up the air conditioner and fan, right? We don't want that. Yeah. So, like I said, we'll be doing some more things like this. Is just really just a long stream of consciousness update. And we'll get in more into the history, the theology and things like that, but also into comics. So we'll get into some of the myths, some of the legends and folklore. I've got some cool stories to tell about where my grandfather was from in Butte-des-Morts in Wisconsin, right? The Hill of the Dead. He went to Skeleton Bridge School, right? Or Skeleton Creek School, which was near Skeleton Bridge. And they called it that because bones would wash up periodically from this river or this creek. So it's kind of a creepy place, right? And it was literally called the village he grew up in, the fishing village and the hunting village, Indy, was called the Hill of the Dead. That's creepy, right? Can you imagine going to sleep? Fortunately, he grew up before they had a lot of these horror films and stuff. Otherwise, it might have been a little scarier. But who knows?
Dad?
My grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your great grandpa.
Oh, yeah.
Grandpa DeLoss.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He died from COVID.
Yeah, he passed away. It was pretty sad. I know Audrey's still kind of sad about it too. It's kind of a bummer. But he was a good guy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fun. He had a big backyard, right? Huge backyard. And he was still energetic. I mean, he was out still, going to the grocery store, driving around, doing stuff. I mean, I saw him like lifting bags of ice still. He was 91 years old, really fit. So we'll share some old family history too. Like we had one family member that was, they got rabies, right?
No corona.
No, not corona. I'm talking about rabies.
Rabies?
Yes. Yeah, he was the one he was back in the 1700s and he got bit by a wolf.
With rabies?
Yep. And so they ended up having to put him down. Ooh, gruesome story. It was sort of like a family legend, but then I came across a couple of things.
Yeah, who did?
His name was Gideon, from long time ago. So
Oh, gosh.
yeah. So we'll get into him another time. So anyway, maybe I'll have Indy on here a little bit more and she can be on camera. I'll have her little stool over here or something like that. She can sit and chime in. We'll talk about some of these things. That I gave her that Batman. You can't really see it right now, but the Batman on the wall up here. It's from the Justice League. And you just put a nail in the wall and hang it on there. Little statue that jets out.
Yeah, he's doing this right now.
Yeah. So I think it'll be pretty cool. And so we'll get it set up. So maybe the next time I'm on here in the next few days or so, we'll have it all set up and we'll have the characters out there.
Yeah.
We'll have like we'll have the Flash, maybe. We'll have Gorilla Grodd, some of the Superman, right?
I'm laughing
We'll set them up here.
I'm laughing because if an intruder comes in, they would see Batman like he's coming through the wall.
Oh yeah, it looks like he's coming through the wall. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, and funny at the same time.
Yeah, we'll stick Willow on the intruders too if they come in. All right, so anyway, I think we're going to sign off. But if you get a chance, watch some of that Superman and Lois and see what you think. Let me know about that and see if it's a good recommendation. All right, you guys take care and God bless, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.